Japan just pulled the first lever of the global reset, and Ripple is quietly sitting at the end of the domino chain. The yen carry trade is ending, and XRP is the lifeboat no one sees coming. The US-Japan financial reset no one saw coming. Oh, one the headline you missed: Japan's economy just cracked. GDP fell 1.8%, exports collapsed after US tariffs. Private consumption barely grew, and the government responded with a monstrous 17 yuan trillion stimulus package. This is not normal. This is the world's largest creditor nation signaling a global regime shift. 2. The bond market is screaming loudly. Japan's 10-year government bond yield, JGB, just spiked to 1.7%, the highest since 2008. Why is that dangerous? Because Japan has the largest sovereign debt in the world, the lowest interest rates for decades, a financial system built on cheap money. When yields rise, that cheap money evaporates. This is the first domino. 3. Japan is the world's bank, and the bank is now calling its money back. Most people don't know this. Japan is the world's biggest net creditor, holding over $6 trillion in overseas assets. Japanese investors own US treasuries, European bonds, emerging market debt, global equities, infrastructure assets worldwide. If Japan gets into trouble, it starts pulling money back home. This instantly drains global liquidity. Oh, for why this matters: a liquidity vacuum hits every country. If Japan repatriates even 5 to 10% of its overseas wealth, US bond yields rise, European bonds sell off. Currency markets go wild, risk assets tumble. Global funding costs explode. The entire system is built on constant liquidity flows. Japan withdrawing equals someone pulling the fuse from the global financial grid. 5. Why now? Because the BOJ quietly ended the free money era. Japan kept interest rates near zero for decades. This allowed the famous yen carry trade. Borrow in cheap yen, gives invest globally, gives earn big returns. This trade is worth over $1 trillion plus. Now, yields rising, yen strengthening. Borrowing costs rising, suddenly the trade is unprofitable. Billions must be unwound. This forces massive asset selling worldwide. 6. This timing was not accidental. This crisis aligns perfectly with BIS Bank for International Settlements demanding liquidity reforms, US running out of treasury buyers, the global push for CBDCs, a coordinated shift to tokenized financial systems, ISO 20022 standardization, US-Japan financial agreements behind closed doors. Japan may be acting as the sacrificial domino, the first trigger. 7. And right when their bond market started cracking, Japan quietly cut crypto taxes to 20%. Why would a country facing a debt crisis, a bond market problem, a collapsing GDP suddenly make crypto more attractive? Because they need a controlled, trackable, programmable escape valve for capital. Not stocks, not foreign bonds, crypto. But only the compliant, traceable, ISO standardized rails. This is why XRP suddenly makes sense in their regulatory framework. 8. Japan's biggest financial giant, SBI, is Ripple's strongest ally. While the West debated crypto, Japan integrated Ripple deeply into their banking infrastructure. SBI owns a major stake in Ripple. Japanese banks use RippleNet. Japan's remittance corridors rely on Ripple Tech. SBI CEO openly supports XRP as a global bridge asset. Japan is the most pro-Ripple country on earth. And now their financial system is at a transition moment. 9. The biggest missing piece. And that is where DNAPROTOCOL becomes the quiet but critical player. DNAPROTOCOL provides sovereign, verifiable, permissionless identity and asset credentialing, the layer that allows tokenized assets, digital currencies, and cross-border settlements to operate in a trustless global system. 10. Legacy systems SWIFT, OC, SEPA cannot handle rapid currency flows, high-frequency liquidity transfers. Multilateral settlement, fragmented markets, Ripple can. XRP was literally engineered to move liquidity across borders. Settle in 3 to 5 seconds, work during volatility. Operate without pre-funded accounts. It is the liquidity plug waiting for the crisis. 11. Here's the big picture. Japan's bond crisis gives global liquidity crunch, gives US Treasury pressure, gives central banks forced into tokenized settlement, gives new cross-border architecture, gives Ripple ISO 20022 tokenized assets, gives digital currencies for real-time liquidity, gives global monetary reset. Japan didn't fire the first shot, Japan exposed the plan. 12. What you're witnessing is not random. Japan isn't collapsing, Japan is transitioning. And the world is about to follow. The era of cheap money is ending. The era of tokenized money is beginning. Ripple will be at the center. Domino chain will be the verifier. Japan is the first domino. 13. The future financial stack looks like. Liquidity gives XRP, infrastructure gives RippleNet. Identity and ZK credentials gives DNAPROTOCOL. Tokenized assets gives global markets. The pieces are falling into place.